This is Josh Reeves. Thank you for listening to the Mile High Church podcast. Christmas time is on its way, and our candlelight services are as well. December 23rd and 24th, 1, 4, and 7 p.m. in person here on the Mile High Church campus, but you can stream them as well on 7 p.m. at each evening. Dr. Roger's going to be with us. We have some amazing musicians. Our theme this year is Christmas magic, and we're inviting each and every one to ask themselves the question, are you being the Christmas you want to see in the world?
You might be wondering, why did he sing that song, right? Or maybe you're not wondering. I started a series last week, Finding a Truth That's True, and maybe it goes without saying, what he just sang, that's not the way to do it. I don't know that phrase really works, and those ways really work, but I love that it demonstrates to us how crazy we can be sometimes in our spiritual jargon and our desire to dance with the part of us that wants to judge and make everyone wrong and the part of us that wants to make it all right. And so last week in our first part of the series, we started with the notion of how our truth evolves. And we talked about a number of ways that in life, each one of us could possibly see how we've grown, how things that we thought were absolutely true at one point shifted, changed, morphed, such that we then embraced a whole new sense of what's true about ourselves, about our life, about other people, about what's possible, about who we could be in the world, about life and religion and spirituality and all sorts of things. And the invitation in doing that was to help us to see that we always want to be on that edge of that evolving truth. That I suggested that we think we're safest if we have the right truth. If I just have the right truth, if I just know what's true, I'll be safe in the world, I'll be spiritually safe, and that really it's about deepening our trust into spirit and really listening to the deep truth within us that is always guiding us, always urging us forward. So that was a brief recap of the invitation that we started with last week. Today we're talking about when your truth is not my truth. I really want to lean into some more about how do we be with other people, other ideas, other concepts in a way that has our spiritual integrity fully in place and challenge us to really look at how easy it is to get out of integrity. Mexican-American businessman and philanthropist Daniel Lebetsky says, we need to understand the other side to impact the other side. We become much more effective as humans and leaders when we engage in hearty conversations with those who are different from us, not necessarily to change our opinions, but to build the empathy muscle. That's the bottom line of my talk today. My invitation in this message is that we work and cooperate. We are cooperative humans, collaborative humans in the game of life because we're building our empathy muscle, and that is how we create a greater sense of peace and well-being for ourselves and others. It's not knock down, drag out fights until someone wins and their truth wins that this happens. It is through collaboration, and I think Mr. Lebetsky says it so clearly, and yet I acknowledge that it's hard to be a human and to flex that muscle. It's even harder than leg work at the gym. It's hard stuff, right? It's challenging because I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed people say some really crazy things in the world. Has anybody else seen that lately? I've just kind of noticed. You might even be thinking, I'm saying some crazy things right now. I don't know. But we are flooded, I think, and always have been to some degree. As I said last week, it seems that since humans have noticed that there are other humans in other places and doing things differently, we've argued over whose way of all sorts of things is correct. Yet I think in the past few decades, it's gotten more intense, mostly due to our ability to have access to other people. Years ago, we didn't know what the prime minister of that country or that country was saying on a moment-by-moment basis. We might get it in a news story in a newspaper at some point or hear something on the news. But now we have a 24/7 news cycle where we can hear the stupid things that world leaders say constantly if we want, right? It's an easy thing to hear. And we have a social media that is always amped up, and so we can see posts and things that people are talking about. And the truth is, I think that what is challenging for most of us is that we dance between that wonderful challenge of being this human being, wanting to be safe and wanting to live a good life, and being this spiritual being. And that human part is constantly challenged because the news and the words and the concepts and the sound bites that get the most energy and the posts that get the most energy are all about how afraid we should be and how it's all falling apart and how people are out to ruin your way of life and how people are out to take your freedoms and take your ability to speak your truth away from you, and fear. And so it can be really easy as we're scrolling and our brain is trying to pass by those things, or as we're listening to the news, to get caught up in it. And it's creating huge underlying anxiety for human beings because our human ego is feeling scared and facing its morbidity and facing all sorts of things that we don't want to face. And so it's easy out of that fear to then become very defensive and to become very afraid and reactive and want to fight back and talk back and not be able to recognize that just because someone says it on the news doesn't make it so. Just because someone says it on Facebook or whatever social media you're on doesn't make it true. It's the ability to think critically, to center ourselves back in spirit and listen to that voice. It's the ability to fact check and really do our research. And yet the challenge is the volume of it is so huge that I know it would be a full-time job for me to fact check everything that I read, that I go, what? And some of it, I admit, I get very reactive about. I get angry about, because it seems so far-fetched and so ridiculous. And it feels to me like it is so motivated by wanting to scare us and make us feel afraid. I wrote in my book that it's like we have this fear flu that we're trying to give to each other. And we have to pay attention to not passing the fear flu on to each other. But it can be really easy to catch the fear flu. And suddenly, before we know it, we're just afraid that some horrible thing is about to happen. And we tell each other about it, and we want each other to know about it. And so we're sharing our truth about how afraid we think we should be. And all the while, we're not really doing ourselves or other people that much good, the truth be known. Because it's not how true solutions to some of the challenges we're facing really emerge. Yeah, people have to recognize there's a problem, there's a challenge, this isn't working, but we have to find peace within ourselves, and that's where creativity and possibility and innovation really does rise. It's not about debating and making each other wrong and yelling at each other. And so we are wanting to find peace in it all, but it can be challenging. And it can be challenging not to make other people wrong and disagree with people and think horrible thoughts about them. We don't believe in the concept of hell in this teaching. We don't believe that there's a hell where people go to, and yet sometimes we might fantasize about these horrible people who are doing horrible things going there. And I found this quote this week from our founder, Ernest Holmes. It's a quote I've never seen before in my life, and so I was fascinated with it. Holmes says, "When I lost hell, I lost the greatest asset I had." There is nowhere to send people who disagree with me. And this is bad, he says. I miss it more than any of my infantile possessions. But I couldn't carry it along into adulthood because the place cooled off long ago. So I find that fascinating that Ernest Holmes had to give it up. And I think that we all have our ways that we can give up these notions and fall into greater peace as we're trying to be together in each other's truths. I saw a meme recently that was making fun of the namaste, and it was talking about the crazy, wild things people say, and a new greeting might be namakre, namakre. It's defined as the crazy in me honors the crazy in you. Namakre. And so how do we get past that crazy in me? As I was contemplating this, I felt how challenging it can be when I know I've been in the face of hearing things, seeing things that I just don't think are true, that I think are so fear-based and so cray-cray, nama-cray. And so I was thinking about some characters from the movie Shrek. My son used to watch Shrek years ago, and he watched all the Shrek movies, and I joined him. And one of my favorite characters in the Shrek movies was Rumpelstiltskin. And Rumpelstiltskin had different wigs for how he was feeling, for his moods. And he has a wig that is an angry wig. Here's a picture of Rumpelstiltskin with my angry wig. And he would get very angry and say, I'm going to put on my angry wig. And he would take this wig, and to me, it always looked like fire. Like his head was on fire. He was so angry, he was on fire. And I thought, that's how I feel sometimes. I look at people and the things they say, and I just want to put on my angry wig, and I feel on fire with anger and pissosity and not so compassionate and loving at all. And then I remembered that back when we were kids, in my generation at least, we were taught this 3-word thing about fire, that if you were in a fire or you caught on fire, stop, drop, and roll, right? Stop, drop, roll. And I suddenly thought to myself, now, if I've got my angry wig on, what would it mean to stop, drop, and roll and put that fire out? And so that's what I'm bringing to us today as far as methodologies and ideas for dealing with those moments when we feel that anger in the face of another person. Someone right in front of us, someone we're hearing about in the news, someone giving a speech or a talk, or someone on social media, and we just feel that feeling of, oh my God, I'm so stupid, I can't. Yeah, that was articulated very well, wasn't it? Yeah, thank you so much. How do we do that? So let's take a look at what we could mean by stop, drop, and roll. The first one is stop. Stop talking and start listening. Stop talking and start listening. I notice when I get into the presence of someone or something that I don't agree with, my greatest challenge is to stay present. What I find myself doing, and I'm sure I'm the only one who does this, is that while that other person is talking and I'm thinking about how stupid they are, I am making up words and mounting my defense in my head. Here's what I'm going to say to them. What do they think about that? What do they think about that? Have they read that article? Stop talking to myself. Stop talking. Start listening. Stop judging and start being present. Taking a deep breath and just being present. Stopping myself like that is the first step in when I'm in the presence of someone whose truth is not my truth. And then I believe I have a chance to open my heart by being grateful. To open my mind by being grateful. Being grateful that this person is sharing with me their ideas, even though they're very different than mine. Be very grateful if I'm looking at a world leader and I'm thinking what an idiot they are or what stupid ideas they're bringing forth. And then I think to myself, I can be grateful, even if they're not a leader that I believe in or that is a leader that I would vote for. I can be grateful that they are willing to lead. Because it takes a lot of chutzpah to be willing to get up and lead in this world. Because the minute we get up and lead, we're misinterpreted, we are misquoted, we are targets for people's criticism. And so we don't even know most of the time if the people who are leading and the things they're actually saying are being quoted correctly or are really the truth. But I can be grateful for the fact that this person is being courageous enough to lead, or to have ideas about the earth, or to have ideas about politics, or to have ideas about whatever it is that has come up. I can be grateful that they are there. They're giving me a chance, mostly, to fall into empathy and to practice my empathy muscle. If I take the opportunity that's right in front of me. If I don't take that chance and I start to argue back with them and I start to debate them and I start to argue for who's right and wrong, I've missed the opportunity right there. Missed it. Gone. But if I've stopped and been grateful, and the very next step is to get curious. In stopping, I stop talking, I start listening, I stop judging, I get grateful, and I get curious. Because if I get curious and I look behind what's going on with most people and what they're really talking about, it can allow me to really be present and hear them. There was a great example that I ran into about this state of curiosity recently. It was on HBO, a documentary by documentary filmmaker Alexandra Pelosi. She is the daughter of Paul and Nancy Pelosi. She made a documentary called The Insurrectionist Next Door. And she went, and this was so courageous of her, because she was in the Capitol on January 6th. And she was with her mother as they were shuffling them to a safe space. And she was there as there were people coming in looking for her mother to harm her or kill her, looking for her mother's office so that they could hurt it and do damage there. So Alexandra is in the Capitol watching all this go on. And then, of course, a few months later, her father was hurt by someone who broke into their home looking for Nancy to hurt her. And here Alexandra has the spiritual courage and says, I'm going to get curious. I'm going to go out and interview some of these people who tried to come and harm my family and harm my country. And it was really fascinating. Of course, I didn't agree with everything that the people said about why they did what they did. Some of them have had a change of heart, or some of them, indicate that they didn't quite understand what was going on or what they were getting themselves into. It was very interesting, and she doesn't let them off the hook. Alexandra's holding the camera, and she's interviewing them while she's holding the camera. And so she's talking to them about, why were you in my mother's office? What were you hoping to do? And she's not being rude or mean. She's just asking questions. She's just being curious. And it really showed me that even if I vehemently disagree with the reason that some of the people went into the Capitol that day, they are my brothers and sisters, they are my family, and I can be curious about what their experience was, what their life has been like, what is the backstory that prompted their choices, and it allowed me to feel greater compassion. That's what can happen, I think, when we stop and we do these things and we get curious. We can find ourselves connecting and literally practicing that empathy muscle in a powerful, powerful way. So stop. The next one is drop. Drop into your heart. Drop into your heart. Feel the connection of human being to human being, not just this face on a screen, or words on a screen in a meme, or words across the table of someone I disagree with. But dropping into our heart allows us to then, as we've softened ourselves with the stop steps, allows us to have heart and experience love and compassion for another person, even if we don't agree with them. A compassion that allows us to listen to them, to hear them, to allow them to express themselves and to ask questions and to repeat back and to say, in other words, I can see that there are conversations that I could have with someone who expresses their fear about something that's going on in the world, and my fighting stance and my angry wig is going to want to say, don't be so afraid. Why are you so afraid? Well, that's not true. Let's talk about that. That's just not true. My heart says, wow, you sound really afraid. My heart says, tell me more about that. How did you come to believe that? What are you most afraid might happen? My heart softens and allows me to be present. And that's not dangerous. See, we think the safest thing is if I can convince them they're wrong, convince them to change their mind. But what if the safest thing for you and I and our fellow human beings is compassion? What if compassion is the cure to this whole thing? But we can only get to compassion if we stop and drop into the heart and allow ourselves to literally speak to each other from that heartful place. Tell me more. Tell me what's concerning you. Let's talk about this. And it includes in there, no, I don't see it exactly that way. And it includes not even telling them how I see it unless they ask. Oh my God. If they ask, of course. But if they don't, I won't. Dropping into the heart. And then the last one is roll. Rolling into where our true safety is. This is hearkening us back to last week. Rolling into that place within us that says, no matter what this person believes, I know my safety is in me listening to my inner guidance. My safest place is to hear that this is what I know I need to do about this issue. This is how I know I'm going to step forward in this issue. This is what I know I'm going to do when I vote. But it's the safe place within me, the safe guidance within me, to roll into it and just allow ourselves to be nurtured and nourished by it. It can happen later after the conversation in our spiritual practice, but it can also happen right in that moment because, of course, the more we do it, the easier it is to get there. So I can go into a prayerful stance right in the presence of some of the most crazy, wild conversations if I choose to, if I make the choice to go through this process consciously. And that is what's true for me. That's what supports and serves me. Last week, I had a practitioner ask me out in the lobby, I hear all that you're saying, and isn't the truth, the changeless truth that God is the God of love and peace and joy and wholeness? You're not saying that we don't believe that, are you? And I said, well, that's what I believe. And so I want to close today with saying that even that belief that I'm talking about here, that's what serves and supports me. And I think a lot of us who are in this faith tradition find great comfort in the awareness of the power and the presence of the divine. And Holmes would call that the changeless truth. And I get it, like God, whatever God is, God has been and always shall be. And we have a certain belief about what that presence is and how it operates through us. And I rely on it, and I've felt it, and I've had mystical experiences that have allowed me not to have much doubt about it. And yet, here's what I know, is that I can believe and have faith and practice all that I want and still, like I was talking about, evolve that truth. As much as I believe in the divine presence, I know there's more to experience it. And I know that everything that I believe, even in this teaching, serves and supports me, and I will passionately live it out. And I also have said a few times from this place that we are a faith tradition, and we are a people who understands that as passionately as we believe all this stuff, we know that when the time comes that it's time to walk off this earth plane, it may not all be 100% exactly as we thought it was going to be. It's possible. It's possible. The first time I encountered this was when I was 16 years old. I read the book Illusions by Richard Bach. And I loved that book and all the stories in it and all the ways that the wayward Messiah teaches him about the notion of the divine. And it's very passionate and powerful, and I'm buying every word of it. And I will never forget turning to the last page of the story, and here's what it said. Everything in this book may be wrong, right? So as passionate as we get about any truth, part of how we stay open and we evolve is we are passionate, but we understand everything I believe, it could be wrong. It could be that it's not exactly the way that I believe it or they believe it, whether it's about subjects that we're experiencing here on this earth plane, or whether it's about our deepest spiritual principles. Everything I've said in this talk could be wrong. Everything that Ernest Holmes talks about could be wrong. And it's the risk that we take of being alive and being spiritually engaged that we step into the truths that are true for us. And we allow ourselves to be guided by that inner presence of the Most High through every day of our life, through every decision, in every conversation, in every way that we connect and have a chance to love and engage with other human beings. This is how we truly discover a truth that is truly true. I invite our practitioners to join me now as we pray together. If you want to stand, practitioners, feel free. And we go within in this moment and allow ourselves to just bask in the powerful presence of the divine one, the divine light, the divine love, the divine wholeness. We bask in it now because we know that it is the light that expresses itself in this universe. It is the light that shines through all beings everywhere. Right here and right now, we believe in the one presence, the one mind, the one heart, the oneness that permeates all creation. And we breathe that in and allow ourselves to feel and be comforted by that one presence, by our experience of it thus far, recognizing and owning that we are always on a journey of greater unfolding and greater discovery of that divine presence and of our own experience in it and of the truth about it. We are always on a divine journey with regards to living and life, and that there is more to be unfolded for each one of us in this journey and for our collective experience. And therefore, I accept and affirm that right here and right now, we are, each one of us, moving forward on a greater journey of revealing deeper and deeper and deeper truths to ourselves. We are surrendering any temptation to stay stuck in some ideas or ideals that no longer serve, and rather feeling that open pull to growing and evolving and experiencing greater realities of being. And this is true even regarding the big ideas that we think about our planet. We recognize together in this moment that this ability to be open and accepting allows us to be a place where the divine expresses itself through innovative possibilities in every realm, in science and our ecology and politics and education, in every part of the careers that every being is experiencing, in marketing, in church. In life together, we open ourselves to greater truths that evolve us, that create solutions that are loving and collaborative and include all beings everywhere. We stand in these truths together, accepting and affirming that God life, that God presence, that creative source and force is our truth, our greatest asset, our greatest guidance, our greatest partner. And I give thanks that this is the truth about each one of us. I give thanks that this is so. This is what is made manifest through us right now. I give thanks that as it has been spoken, it is done. And I release this prayer now into the action of that law that simply makes it so. We let go, we let God. It is done. And we say together, and so it is. Amen.
Thanks for listening to the Mile High Church podcast. This podcast is made possible by the generous contributions from listeners like you. To make a donation, please visit milehighchurch.org.